this a short squeeze that's going to last more than 2 days? Or is this something bigger? What's the Federal Reserve going to think about this atrocious job number? Is he still a hawk, or was he never a hawk? What's going on with gold, silver, and the dollar after the payroll number? And can this rally have legs? And what altcoins should you be in? Stay tuned, because after we go through everything, we're going to have altcoin overtime, where we're going to look at some big caps that make sense. Over in Patreon and in the YouTube member area, we have got everything you need to jump on this rally, assuming you believe it can last 2 months at least before Michael Saylor comes back. Don't forget, if you do trade, open up an account with our friends at StormRake. The link is down below. Get a broker, not a creepy centralized exchange. Patreon Platinum and Patreon regular tier has got altcoin reports as well. So back to the narrative. Payroll number terrible. Bitcoin up. 60K held for all the booga booga. The bearish story got too much traction at the lows. I wrote it to get people's attention, realizing that after I talked to Toby and realizing that nobody was bullish, that it was time to get bullish just in time. Want to hear more? Don't go anywhere. This is the Market Update. I am your host, Bill Noble. If you need a roadmap in crypto, subscribe to this channel. Turn on alerts so you know when we're going live. And if the content works for you, please hit the like button. Okay, beginning with the payroll number. So job growth comes out. It's supposed to be 110K, and it's half that. Ruh-roh. It's amazing how these job numbers move back and forth when they expect people to be hawkish. Oh, I'm super hawkish. Oh, he didn't say anything. Warsh has said nothing, except he doesn't want inflation high. He just wants it at 2%. That's all he said. So, of course, that was interpreted as being super hawkish, which is dumb. Then, all of a sudden, they have a jobs number that shows, oh, wait, it's lower than expected. Maybe he doesn't have to be super hawkish. Look at this. They already rewrote the headline. Warsh's comment set the stage for job data to ignite Bitcoin and gold. What statement? What? The guy has said nothing. Nothing. He said, we don't like inflation. We're independent, and we're not giving you any forward guidance. So first he's a hawk, and now he's a dove. Really, truthfully, what Warsh actually wants is to cut rates the way Greenspan cut rates back in the 90s. AI increases productivity. It holds inflation down. All right. And that allows him to lower rates. So don't be surprised if all of these numbers are weaker going forward. Like every single jobs number going forward will be weaker than expected, because that's what the powers that be now want. They have to de-hawk Warsh, and that they just did it. Now, there's actually some data in here that's shocking. Household employment plummeted during the month, with 507,000 fewer people reporting at work. That's not 507,000 people not working. That's 500,000 people less than last time at work. That means if you get pushed off the cart with these tech layoffs, you don't get back on the cart. Congratulations. You were making 150 grand a year. Now you're making $20 an hour. Or you're collecting unemployment for 6 months before you have to hit whatever bid there is for your house, assuming there is one. Rates are too high. Housing is locked. And don't forget, employment and housing can be connected. It's not going to be 2008 in housing, but there's going to be a compelling case to cut rates if this continues. I mean, they have rate hikes priced in the bond market. Crazy. They're bidding up the dollar. Crazy. That may unwind. We'll go through that. Don't go anywhere for those charts. And then if you look at where the job creation actually was, professional services up 36,000. But then it becomes old people numbers. So social assistance went up 25,000 and healthcare went up 22,000. That's the aging population. So you tell me where the job growth really is. There isn't any. The labor market is not growing. It's not a disaster except in tech, but those numbers haven't even, I don't think they're reflected yet. And Warsh as a hawk is stupid. So here's what happened in Bitcoin and silver and gold. Essentially, they rewrote the narrative around the price action. So hear me. First, we start with, we have a $2 trillion deficit, a labor market that hasn't grown in years, and a narrative that the Federal Reserve is hawkish. Ending what's called the dollar debasement trade. In other words, nobody thinks that the $2 trillion a year deficit and the 39T that we owe is going to get solved somehow magically. They're not going to have to print or do something drastic in order to continue that scenario. So all of a sudden, oh, well, gold's down, silver's down, dollar's up, Bitcoin's down. Therefore, dollar debasement trade is over per the B plus or maybe the C plus journalism majors over at Bloomberg. We trading with Bloomberg now? I certainly hope not. I hope you're trading with the Spartans over in Patreon and in the YouTube member area where we were on this with altcoin picks. And frankly, we refused to get negative. Outside of covering the Michael Saylor story, we were still in the mode where we're like, look, if 60K holds, this market is okay. And now if 60K holds, this dollar debasement trade will come back. Gold might go up. Silver might go up. Stay tuned for the charts. And this dollar debasement trade may come back with a vengeance. Oh, and by the way, everybody just puked the Bitcoin ETF. That's retail and institutions. Retail bought the high in semiconductors and NASDAQ. Okay. And we have the head of Palantir, perhaps King Lizard himself, saying something has gone completely wrong. The AI business model is insane. It leaves enterprises paying escalating token costs for limited value. Anthropic and OpenAI were misleading corporate partners, overselling the risks of AI while at the same time offering their most powerful models to companies and sovereigns worldwide. Boys, are you having a little problem with your AI is everything story? Did you FOMO in and buy the high in chips and chip stocks? Have you completely missed the AI agentic commerce narrative that Amazon is pushing, where AI agents are going to get online and start doing trades in stablecoins? So the equity market bought the high in an insane narrative that's being criticized by the head lizard. And no one sees this as a problem for NASDAQ. No one sees this as a problem that could create NASDAQ underperformance. In other words, we just got done with a period where NASDAQ went up and Bitcoin went down. Okay. So we'll get this going for people on TikTok because I know they can't see the screen shares of the news articles. But when you have NASDAQ futures, of course, you have this huge parabolic, right? Here's the general public getting in, hedge funds getting out. And then all of a sudden, there has to be a definitive move below the 21-day moving average. They've been making it extremely difficult on short sellers. I get it. But there's something to brew here in NASDAQ, and we're going to do it live TA style. Because to me, this is starting to look like a diamond top. Uh-oh. And when you break out of a diamond, okay, it hasn't broken out yet, so we don't have to freak out right this second. But if you break out of a diamond, right, if you break down and you come back and you retest it and that retest fails, this vaporizes. Like diamonds, diamond bottoms are pretty big, but diamonds in general can create huge moves. So, boys, are we a little bit over our skis in NASDAQ? Huh. Did we spend a lot of time hunting down Michael Saylor? Maybe. Did we get too bearish on Bitcoin? Oh, yeah. Did we just completely abandon altcoins? Did all these characters out there completely lose track of what a layer one was? There's no such thing as a layer one, right? Solana, who cares? Solana's at 60. Now it's at 80, but who cares? ETH's up 5%. Who cares? ETH's dead. Sui's actually doing well today. XRP held $1. We're too busy buying chip stocks. Don't bother me. Oh, okay. Maybe we should take a look at the chip stocks. How about that? How are we doing over there? Uh-oh. It's down 5% again. Again. Look what we have here. I think we have a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like a break of the neckline. Not exactly a classic traditional pattern, but they're the ones that work. And this is breaking down. So even if they bring this back, this got to go lower. This got to go a lot lower because the general public is so trapped up here. So trapped, right? And Stevie is like, yeah, if Saylor would just sell the Bitcoin and eliminate the story, this thing would go to 80. Now, what I like about this market, just to, to clarify, is that, there is resistance. It's a slow moving rally, which I like because it creates disbelief. Bitcoin is now back at the 21-day moving average, which has been a sell all the way down, right? Every time it gets here, down 21-day, crash, down 21-day, crash, down 21-day, up to the 21-day, crash, right? So 1 ping, 2 ping, 3 pings. This is the 4th ping, and guess what? I'll make the prediction right now. They're going to back off the 21-day moving average, and then they're going to blow through it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because on July 4th, over holiday weekends, you can tend to have big moves. Holidays, right? Thin, everyone goes to the beach, everyone's bearish. NASDAQ's rolling over, so everybody thinks they can continue to be bearish Bitcoin. Uh-oh. What happens if these guys get blown out of their positions while they're at the beach and they got to cover? They're annoyed. They're on the beach. They're getting a phone call. Their phone's going off. We're getting hurt on these positions. They're just going to cover at the market. I mean, you realize that in Bitcoin on LuxAlgo, which, that link's down below, you have equilibrium is at 69. And the real resistance in Bitcoin after 62, which is, that's resistance, but after 62, the next legit resistance is at 76. And nobody thinks it can go there. And this feels like gradually, then suddenly. Because guess what, everybody? The dollar debasement trade may be back. Maybe, maybe. You know, if you look at DXY, if you look at the dollar, and I got this from the guys from StormRake. You know, these guys, they're smart. They're like, you know, they pump the dollar so they can dump it on your head. You have a sell signal on Lux Algo after DXY rolled over at the premium zone. Obviously, there's support at 100 because Lux Algo inserted a support shelf. So that's a mixed picture, but there's nothing mixed about this monthly chart where DXY rallies big into a huge monthly resistance point and then comes off on the payroll number. Come on. You really seriously? I mean, the yen is an issue. I know that. But do you really want to buy the dollar? Really? You want to buy the dollar and sell gold and sell Bitcoin and sell silver? Huh. Let's take a look at how that's going to work out. Let's have a little looky look. Okay. So, silver does what feels to me like, you know, it feels like A, B, C, right? And then, you know, you get a couple Lux Algo bottoming signals right here, the little triangle and the little X. You're on the discount zone. You're far away from the 200-day moving average, which is at 66. Silver is currently at 60. This prior high held. It didn't even get down there. This was the point where the whole thing broke out from, right here. That was the breakout zone. It came right down on it. So I ask you this, and then when you look at what the downside target should have been when you broke out of this cone, you're going to find something really interesting. You're going to find that silver was supposed to travel the width of this cone from the point of the breakdown. So here's the cone. Here's the width. And then silver was supposed to go down. Oh, what was the downside target? 56. What was the low in silver? 56. Down move over. Pattern complete. Now what? Oh, I don't know. How about we go the other way? Now that Bloomberg has said, oh, yeah, no, the dollar debasement trade is over. As gold hits the discount zone and the 62% retracement of the move that started in April of last year and peaked in February of this year. 62% discount zone. 200-day moving average is at 4,300. Gold is currently at 4,105. And frankly, you can see the hesitation. See, that's what's key. When you have these like 20% rallies in one day, that's no good. That's going to get sold. That's going to get sold. Now, what may not get sold is this like, you know, 2%, 2%, 2%. And then all of a sudden that becomes 5%, 7%, 10%, which sounds like a beautiful thing to do over July 4th. So if you manage to hold on, if you did the Toby Ward program and listen to Toby, there's a short video. There is a short video. Wait, let me get this. Let me share my own channel, which in many ways was a leading indicator. It was an absolute leading indicator. So I love this. So AI and crypto, why you must buy more. Okay. 261 views. Saylor's $4 billion move, right? Everything about Saylor. Saylor sell-off, 1,200 views. Wall Street pukes Bitcoin, 1,800 views. You must buy more, 200 views. Nobody interested. Nobody. All right. So when all the bearish content, and Saylor was worth covering, right? Because Saylor could be a problem later. But when Saylor wasn't a problem now, or when, Saylor was on the cover, like MSN News, Saylor, right? Peter Schiff dissing Michael Saylor like 2 days ago. I'm like, oh my God, the dumb money is all over this. Citibank and 2 other investment banks lowered their Bitcoin price targets. They lowered it from 6 figures to 80. And you know what it's going to do? It's going to go right to 80. It's going to go right to 80. All these guys who downgraded their targets, whatever the new target is for 12 months, it's going to go there. It might go there in 12 days. Or it might go there in, say, 8 weeks. You may just get this like grinding bid, right? You ever hear that saying? Don't short the quiet market. Don't get short the summer market, right? Because you're going to get absolutely blown out. You're going to get blown out. And they don't have, the bears don't have the narrative. And if you look at this, oh, wait, the next phase of digital assets is agentic. Trust will decide who scales. That sounds vaguely like the narrative from Toby Ward from the last 8 to 10 reports, right? I just put a condensed version of some of the small altcoin picks in Patreon, in the Patreon store at a great price in case you're allergic to the whole monthly thing. And obviously for the platinum members. We could do the Michael Saylor trade later. Right now, we're going to do this. We're going to do this because, people are, not on the right side of this. Look, all of a sudden, the price action has changed the narrative. Bitcoin up 4% as inflation fears soften. Bitcoin rose after Kevin Warsh said inflation risks has eased. Kospi, which we should pull up. Kospi, which is the Korea, it's essentially the new Asian, that's not new. It has become the Asian gambling index. Like normally the gambling indices are in China. But since, Kospi has Samsung and a lot of chip companies, normally everyone who's doing altcoins is doing Kospi. And what does Kospi look like? Oops. I think we bought too many. Because this is definitely below the 21-day moving average now. And it's outside this classic Lux Algo upward sloping channel. See you later, alligator. Matter of fact, let's try this. Let's have a little fun. Okay, so let me ask you this. If this was an altcoin, would you buy it? If this was an altcoin, would you buy it? And I think the answer to that is yes, you would. You'd be like, oh my God, this is a huge breakout. Jump on that thing. Yeah, right. Except it's not an altcoin. It's the inverse of an AI FOMO NASDAQ semiconductor, pay 10x to value for chips. iPhone raises its prices, whatever. The head lizard just told you it is EFFING insane. What more do you need to know? What do you need to know? I mean, they said it. OpenAI IPO canceled. Why? because they can't absorb another $1 trillion monster that's worth $1 trillion, most likely, because of accounting phony baloney. Phony baloney. And then there's this. And I know this is hard to understand, but there's something called a break even in bonds. Okay, so this is really complicated. This is essentially a metric showing what the bond market requires. Like, what extra yield does the bond market think it might require to compensate for inflation? So obviously, when it's rising, this is a metric to show bond market inflation fear, right? Bond market inflation fear. Oh, wait. This is May 13th. This like totally crashed. This crashed before the payroll number. Huh. And Warsh is hawkish. Yeah. Kevin Warsh's office. Orange Man on line 1. Hey, Kev, I know you're independent and you don't have to do what I say, but can you fix this hawkish? Because A, that's probably not true, and I don't understand why the market is all in love with that. Why is that narrative out there? This is a good question. Well, and Kevin Warsh's answer is the market is stupid and the market made it up, right? Because everything was going down, so they made up a reason. Oh, yeah, the Fed's hawkish. Okay, bro. Okay. You let me know how that turns out. Yeah, what Fed chair? Greenspan was the same way. Greenspan did not want the dollar higher. Nobody wants the dollar higher. And here's why. When the dollar goes up, it's reflective of the fact that people just want to take their money, put it in a U.S. bank, the Fed, or a certificate of deposit, collect their 4% or 3% or whatever, and not do anything. We're not taking any risk. We're not investing in Europe. We're not investing in emerging markets. We're not buying stocks. We're not buying crypto. We're just going to sit on our hands and do nothing. However, when the dollar goes down, other currencies appreciate. So that incentivizes dollar investors to go out and buy, let's just say, an asset in Europe. You don't want to buy an asset in Europe, but let's just use that. So if you go out and buy an asset in Europe and the dollar is falling, you could win if the investment goes up, and you could win on the currency because as the dollar falls, the European currency or the whatever currency rises in value. You win twice. And generally, Fed chairmen, they want investment. They want people to be employed. They want some measure of growth without inflation. Everybody wants the dollar lower, of course, except Bloomberg, because the C+ journalism majors, well, they know everything. Oh my God, please, just stop it. Just stop it. And you know what? This has not dawned on anybody yet. This has not dawned on anybody. Because if you go back, let's pick on Kospi. Let's forget about NASDAQ, because I don't think the Orange Man wants NASDAQ lower on the 250th anniversary of America. But if you start doing like a basic Fibonacci calculation, like if you take this whole rally, right, which very clearly is, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the buying climax, right? If you take this rally, right, and you go, okay, let's do a normal retracement. Let's do a 38% retracement. That's roughly, that's 20% below where this market is right now. That's how stretched out it is. So the AI trade could go down 20%. Now, what do you think happens if that whole parabolic up gets unwound? What do you think happens? Well, the general public gets smoked, margin calls go up, and then everybody realizes, oh, wait a minute. I just sold the Bitcoin ETF. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Wait a minute. We got to get back in. You know, everybody in, everybody out, everybody back in again. Look at these fools, right? They just sold the Bitcoin ETF. They just sold the Bitcoin ETF, where the entire rally started from back in October of 2024. Look at these clowns. Like, the Bitcoin ETF rally unwound itself. And now everybody wants to get negative. They all bought it at 68. They loved it at 68, but at 35, it was diseased, and I have to get rid of it. So I could buy chip stocks at the high. I mean, sit there, look at me and tell me am I wrong about this? Is this not what's happening? Forget about your opinion of the chart. Forget about the TA. This is what just happened. They FOMO'd in at the top in something that's been going up for 4 months straight up, and they puked whatever was going straight down at the end of a quarter, which can be typical. It's called window dressing. You know, they buy the winners and sell the losers. And then the next quarter, they go, okay, now what do we want to do? And we turn around and we unwind it. And there is additional evidence, as we discussed yesterday, that a positive July can have implications for the rest of the summer, even into Rectember. And there's going to be a Rectember, October. That's, you know, this is not over, particularly if NASDAQ accelerates and there's a Saylor issue, but not today, because that story happened and Bitcoin never cracked. I mean, there was two sides, right? Like, they came out with a good statement, right, that bounced STRC. Let's pull that up. Yeah, there were two sides to the story, right? First, they came out with a statement that says, we'll sell Bitcoin if we have to. And STRC went from 71 to 85. This is the debt instrument that he uses to borrow money. And obviously people are short, and obviously people are getting blown out in this. Blown out. Okay. Somebody sent 30 joules. Thank you. Yeah, people got short. And then what happened was Bitcoin didn't react. MicroStrategy went up 10%. Bitcoin didn't react. Now, and that was bearish, which is why Bitcoin went to 58K. But now Bitcoin turns around and kind of slowly follows STRC. And the next thing you know, you're like, well, we just went through all of that drama. The views are crazy. People are all over the Saylor mess. It's everywhere. And Bitcoin went down and came back above 60. It essentially was a failed breakdown. You had all of this drama and Bitcoin was still at 60. And then, you know, the StormRake point that it's making to its clients aggressively is, why in God's name do you want to hold out for 50 or 45, which, you know, that could be later. But why is it that you're so afraid of 60 when everyone's real belief is that Bitcoin should be a multi-trillion-dollar asset at like 250 or 400K? I mean, if you could have absurd valuations for these AI stocks, which again, Palantir just told you are ridiculous. Like, the lizards are making fun of the lizards in terms of valuation. Bitcoin right now is worth 1 trillion. Bitcoin is like Nvidia. It should be a $5 trillion asset. And that's 250K. That's a 4X from 60K. Why would the only thing that cannot be replicated or made or reproduced by AI not be worth what the chip companies are worth? Why would that not be the case? I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, ETH is only worth 250 billion. Solana is only worth 4 billion. 4 billion. Solana is worth less than the intraday fluctuations in some of these big tech stocks. That's crazy. That's absolutely nuts. And we covered this yesterday. Real world assets. Like, people are discovering this, like CoinDesk this morning. Hey, wait a minute. There's a real world asset narrative. Oh, wait, there's a stablecoin narrative. Why are we bearish again? Why are we bearish? Everyone's going, why are we negative? Nobody knows why they're negative. Oh, yeah, it was the Michael Saylor story. Oh, yeah, wait, that didn't, they just said they would sell Bitcoin if they had to, and apparently that was close enough. I don't think that's good enough long term, but it didn't blow up. It didn't get nuked. And don't forget to stay tuned for Altcoin Overtime, because we're going to be going through, some of the larger cap altcoins that we like. And of course, you can't possibly forget the YouTube member area, where we have been talking about this and talking about this and talking about this for weeks. Smart money trading, the hidden small cap alpha. Real altcoin alpha, top winners revealed. Toby got backpack. The next altcoin awakening. What comes next? Why everybody is wrong about the crypto bottom. And so on. And so on. In other words, it paid to be careful and have a plan around Michael Saylor. It did. But it never paid to liquidate. It never paid to get bearish long-term. It did. And yeah, I mean, it's YouTube, and I got to cover what's moving. But the second, Toby had one of her little proprietary indicators, little tongue-in-cheek stuff that we do on the stream. She came up with the most bullish, spurious signal that she had. And I'm like, Everybody got all bearish. Everybody thought it was going to 40. 40 was everywhere on YouTube. Everywhere. YouTube made a suggestion title because I drew something on a chart about Bitcoin going to 52K. YouTube suggested a thumbnail that was my face with 52K. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, I know what the chart says, but I'm still not doing it. I'm not doing it. Not. And thank God, because now I can turn around and say, oh, how about 80? How about 80 instead? Because here it is, folks. Here it is on the Bitcoin TA. It is this simple. Lux Algo draws this triangle. Okay. Note that the lines, the lines are, it's kind of like a band. So when you have a triangle like this, the apex of the triangle becomes a big deal. So when you have a triangle, if the breakout occurs at the apex of the triangle, it can result in huge moves. Huge. Now, naturally, the other day when it was at 58K, there was some danger that this was going to be like a glass of water, and you were just going to, the triangle was downward sloping, and, you were going to just tip the thing over. This is the triangle, and water was just going to fall out the bottom. Bitcoin was just going to go. But guess what? Bitcoin held at 58. That's the bottom of the triangle. That was the discount zone, Heidi Ho. And then the next thing you know, Bitcoin is now breaking outside the top end of the Lux Algo band, which exactly is right there. Now, there's the 21-day moving average. Okay. But what happens if it hits the 21-day moving average, chills out, retests 60 or 61, and doesn't go down, confirming the breakout? Because the same thing happened in Solana, not with a triangle, but I mean, we went on and on and on and on about this, right? How Solana broke out, returned on the down day, and is now pressing resistance at 82. Now, naturally, that's a proving ground for Solana. Solana has to, it's got to get through that before you can get crazy. But I mean, ETH is just now taken out the 21-day moving average, which I find unbelievably interesting, right? 1700 is like a GAN level. And how nice would it be? Because what you have in ETH is you have prices making a new low. You have prices making a low down here. And LuxAlgo is recording a divergence on their momentum indicators. Like LuxAlgo draws it. I don't know that I would draw that diversion, but LuxAlgo is. And a lot of times when you get these divergences, you can get spike moves. And who's bullish ETH? Exactly nobody. Nobody. Which is why you can't have a sustained up move in altcoins. People don't realize this. There's no sustained rally in altcoins, and every altcoin rally gets sold because ETH and Solana cannot go up. You have to have a layer one lead the market. Simple. Period. If you don't have a layer one leading the market, then, you can't have an altcoin move. So it can be, I don't care which one it is. It can be Stellar. It can be XRP. Okay, so here's a preview of the type of things we do in the YouTube member area. So we have 5 infrastructure names and 11 large caps. Welcome to Altcoin Overtime. Okay, the setup. Stable Bitcoin creates room for rotation. Thin summer tape, usage catalysts. One credible adoption signal in any lane pulls capital across the whole trade. That means all you need is one good thing to happen. Somebody adopts Bitcoin and RWA. Don't forget, BlackRock's security token company is going public. Everybody wah about SpaceX. That may be the most important IPO of the year. The best setup is not a headline. It's sector proof plus token value capture. The report points to 5 infrastructure lanes. So these are like Toby's rails, which she got from a model in ChatGPT from a science fiction novel she wrote about an AI hedge fund bad guy and the good guys that fight the AI hedge fund bad guy. Trading rails, RWA and oracles, AI compute, DPIN, and privacy. So where volume and leverage live, all right? And I'll unshare this just so I can read. TikTok doesn't have to look at blind pages. Where volume and leverage live, Hyperliquid, a no-brainer. Aave, DeFi, Jupiter, trading. I mean, perp volume keeps rising on Hyperliquid. Summer volatility lifts demand for leverage and stablecoin borrowing as everything heats up while they're at the beach. And Solana activity spike lifts Jupiter. In other words, folks, this is not complicated. It isn't. It isn't. Where institutional narratives can hit. Chainlink. Yeah, don't laugh. Chainlink. Right? Oracle's data, cross-chain messaging for smart contracts. Banks and funds settle tokenized assets on cross-chain rails. What? There's going to be one chain doing all this? Of course not. Of course not. And then there's Ondo, tokenized real world products, treasuries, fund, and credit. Now, we've published the small caps in these sectors with asymmetric upside. You can watch the video in the YouTube member area, or you can get the condensed report in Patreon, any which way you cut it. In the store, right? In the store, as a member. As a member, you get more bang for your buck. But again, if you're allergic to it, it's in the store. And you're crazy if you don't get it because this market is telling you to get it. The easiest narrative to reignite AI, Tau, incentive network for AI models. because Palantir just told you that whatever the lizards got going on is not working. And you know what? They're actually selling the rally in Tau as we speak at the 21-day moving average. It's almost boring. They're ingrained to sell, and we'll see if they're right. They're going to sell and go to the beach, and then, in my opinion, they're going to get smoked. We'll see. That view hasn't really paid. We'll see if something changes. Render, decentralized computing network. Filecoin, the most boring old coin of all time, distributed storage network. It's amazing that Meta comes out, right? The lizards come out and say, yeah, we're going to have cloud and we're going to sell compute and all this stuff. Stock goes up 10%. Meanwhile, all these decentralized coins do nothing. It doesn't make any sense. Physical networks for the human layer. Worldcoin, proof of personhood. Monero, privacy-focused digital cash. Like, you want to know what Monero has done? Like, Zcash was in kind of a wild range. It didn't go as low as I wanted to, but that's classic, right? You want it to go lower so you can buy, and then it doesn't go lower or doesn't go low enough. You know, what has Monero done? Nothing. Zero. Just sitting here on its discount zone. It's like dead. Like, you know, what happens if this thing wakes up? This whole privacy trade, Railgun, right? Grandpa Keter's favorite, Toby's favorite, Railgun. Oh my God. Are you kidding? Like, this could just absolutely smoke, right? Railgun spiked from 1 to 4 and came back and sits here on a Lux Algo support point at 2. It's currently at 214. You telling me this thing can't smoke? Oh, you better think again, man. This is like privacy trading. It's like privacy trading inside of DeFi. You know, and there's even, you know, everybody has forgotten what this whole thing's really all about. Really. In other words, you know, Janice has got herself a cool website. They got a video about her and the man, right? A documentary. And there's even a token associated with it. Now, of course, that's a meme coin. That's ridiculous, you know, or so you think, until it starts moving. It's called Justice. Okay, so not investment advice, but what exactly are we all doing here? What are we doing here? We doing cyberpunk? Or are we going, well, you know, I'd rather buy Cosby and there's no money for crypto because everything is in AI, even though money supply continues to expand. How fast is money going to become available if Cosby goes down 20%? I got news for you. It's going to become available like that. There's no money. Okay, bro. There's no money. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, and there is asymmetric upside. We published some coins. The one I'll give you for free is Plume. Okay. I think that's in the RWA space. You know, it's called proof of rails. What rails are you building the future on? Machines are going to trade. Machines are going to do DeFi. People are going to do DeFi. Wait till this private credit thing shows its head. Wait till the AI accounting booga booga comes out. I mean, that's known. It's known. NVIDIA's accounting is phony baloney. Meta has a ton of off-balance sheet debt. These guys have borrowed money, and really, the only tech stock to get monkey hammered on debt so far is Oracle. It's only one. But where there's one roach, there's a million. But, you know, Bitcoin is no good. ETH is dead. I mean, they wrapped this narrative around Warsh. They wrapped the narrative around the dollar. They wrapped around the narrative around gold and silver. They wrapped the narrative around NASDAQ as being invincible. All wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And then if there's a realization over this holiday that, oh no, I'm short and I'm wrong, or actually it's not that I'm short. I'm actually wondering, because these hedge funds are massively short. I'm wondering if they're not only short, but they're underinvested in big coins and small coins. They're definitely underinvested. So if this thing goes up for 2 months, it doesn't have to go up forever. It only has to go up for 2 months. You don't think this can go up for 2 months? You don't think it can go up for 1 month? People are used to rallies fading in a day or 2 days. What happens if it has legs? They're all going to have to chase it. They chased Kospi. So what you're saying is that no one's going to chase crypto, but look at the NASDAQ chase. They chased this. Why wouldn't they chase, like, why wouldn't the hedge funds chase crypto if it starts acting like this? I mean, do I have to remind you of what this looks like versus Bitcoin? Bitcoin straight down, NASDAQ straight up. That can't unwind itself because, I mean, you want to talk about money available. Hedge funds have relentlessly sold tech stocks. Relentlessly. They have sold everything. And that hasn't worked because a lot of times they do that into a low. Now they're doing it into a high, and retail took it all. And there's margin debt in stocks. So there's money available to rotate into crypto, into Bitcoin ETFs. Oh, there's plenty of room. There's plenty of room, and you have a nice, happy holiday season, the 250th anniversary of America. And you could have this thing go absolutely vertical. Let's welcome who's here. Yob, first on the stream. Sport knows emojis. Paul, what's going on? Bull Runner in the house. Gary, aloha. Ring Raven. Afternoon in the UK where the short squeeze is blowing people's minds. Oh my God. Thank God I turned it around like just in time. Warpaint, Odd Dark, GG, all members. Oh my God, there's the lizard emoji. Oh, we have to get one. All right. The Jesky, what's going on? The unemployment rate is a bad indicator. The unemployment rate is stupid. You have to look at it versus the number of jobs added versus what was expected. You have to look at average hourly earnings, average hours worked, and the breakdown of who's getting hired, right? It's like mind-blowing. Jamie Dimon got bailed out in 2008 for hundreds of millions. Now he wants to scold everybody about stablecoins. Cry me a river. Mojo is here. Stevie, Thomas Chai, what's up? Right? A1 Rising says, why does it seem like it's just optics and not how the big money is positioned? Right? The big money bought everything. Like while everyone was upset, big money bought the market. Big money bought the tokenization trade and possibly even the Bitcoin trade. DNT Saver says wild, right? Carthagode. Kevin can't be hawkish because of the yen carry situation. No, he can't. You're right. If he's hawkish, the dollar goes up and the yen goes down. And if the yen goes down, you could have hyperinflation in Japan. It's not happening. It's not happening. The dollar going up forever is not happening. One, because of what I just said about the yen. And even if that doesn't make any sense to you, which is fine. StormRake said it best. They're going to pump the dollar before they dump the dollar on your head. DNT Saver, welcome. Welcome to the show. Union Crypto. up in June, down in August, up in mid-September, all the way into October, and comes back down in November. Possibly. Possibly. I mean, Toby thought up in August, and maybe it's stable in July, up in August, and then, the fall's a wild card. Because, a lot of times NASDAQ or stocks will roll over in the summer, usually late summer. And then in the fall, you can have a mess. But you know what? Warsh, this is going to be strange, but the orange man wants stocks higher. Warsh would be very happy with a 20% drop in NASDAQ because then he can come in and start cutting rates. The inflation problem solves itself if NASDAQ goes down 20%. Because who do you think is paying the prices? Inflation prices don't go up by themselves. Someone has to pay the higher prices. Well, who's paying the higher prices? People who have got margin debt money from stonks going up. They borrow money, stonks go up. They take care of the margin debt. They have more money. Stocks go up. They borrow more. Okay, if you end that, you have lower rates. Housing isn't going up. The job market isn't going up. They're spending so much on AI. They're not replacing people with AI. They're spending so much on AI, they have to lay people off. They're going to lay all these people off. They're going to spend all this money, and you're going to have 2 out of the 5 players win, or 1 out of the 5 players win, and everybody else is going to blow up and not be able to pay their loans back. How's NASDAQ going to do in that case? You're going to be like, you know what? Bitcoin is the safe haven from the problem in NASDAQ. Trust me. Trust me. You get this thing unwinding, and that's exactly what they're going to say. Oh, yeah, Bitcoin is the safe haven from NASDAQ. Trust me. They're just going to have to wrap a new narrative because they got this so wrong. So wrong. But don't worry, we didn't. YouTube member area, all over it. Patreon, all over it. StormRake, you haven't opened an account yet? Why? The link is down below in the description. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is the market update for today. We will see you tomorrow.